You're listening to Beyond Wellness Radio, bringing you the cutting edge in health, biohacking, and sports performance. Stay up to date and listen anywhere and anytime on your computer, tablet, or smartphone by subscribing on iTunes. Catch your host, Dr. Justin Marcagiani, as he answers your burning health questions as well as interviews from world-renowned guest experts. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.
Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marcagiani. Welcome to Beyond Wellness Radio. Feel free and head over to beyondwellnessradio.com where you can access our full podcast transcriptions. While you're there, you can also sign up for our thyroid and female hormone video series. This series goes into the root cause of why your hormones are out of balance. While you're there, you can also schedule a functional medicine consult with Dr. Justin, myself, where we'll dig deeper into the root cause of your health challenges. Feel free and think of sharing this podcast with at least one person. This podcast grows by people sharing it. Sharing is caring. If you can think of one person that can benefit from this information, please feel free and share it. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you subscribe on iTunes. You can also click below the video or podcast where you'll see the iTunes review button and leave us a review. You can also sign up for the newsletter at beyondwellnessradio.com where you'll get updates before anyone else. Thank you so much and enjoy the show. Hey guys, it's Dr. Justin Marcagiani here. Welcome back to the podcast. Evan, how are we doing today, my man?
I am doing great. We're here to talk about a glorious topic that somebody has to cover, because if we don't cover it, well then who the heck's going to get to the bottom of their gut issues?
I know. Everything about diarrhea today, or all the key things about diarrhea, what you can do, why is it happening, natural solutions. We really want to focus on getting to the root cause.
I had IBS for a long time, probably a decade.
By the way, just to kind of chime in before we dive in on the diarrhea aspect, is we're really working on upgrading the audio quality today, everyone. So if you're listening on YouTube, we'll put a little podcast link as well so you can listen to the higher grade audio. Give us some feedback on it. Let us know what you think, and if you really enjoy it, please give us some extra shares.
This should be like the ultimate studio quality based on how we're recording it now.
Yeah, so we changed kind of how our recording method is. So if you guys like it, let us know. We appreciate it.
So I had IBS for probably like a decade. You know, IBS is really a terrible, stupid term because it really just means that you don't have a clue why you're suffering from gut issues. So we will mention constipation just because it's often for people to alternate, where 1 week or 1 day they may have diarrhea, and then the next day or the next week they may have constipation. So a lot of people do alternate like that, and there's many different causes. So our goal today is try to break down some of these big triggers and then talk about some of the testing options to investigate this problem, and then talk about some of the solutions, like what are the palliative things, what are the little low-hanging fruits that you can do, but then what are the root cause strategies you have to implement as well.
Exactly. So one of the first things that's happening with diarrhea is obviously motility is fast. Now the problem with that is you're gonna have malabsorption. It's going to be harder to break down protein, absorb fat, ionize minerals, and absorb a lot of these key minerals for healthy metabolic function, thyroid function, mitochondrial function. So it's really easy to have brain fog, fatigue, and to not feel like yourself. And especially usually there's inflammation, so your body's sucking out a lot of these minerals because it's pulling water into your small intestine and colon to kind of get whatever irritant is out. So then if these minerals are low, that can lead to more adrenal issues as well. And minerals are important for healthy blood pressure. So if you're getting dizzy or standing up fast or having heart palpitations or feeling anxious, these are all common side effects with diarrhea. Now, we look at long-term effects of diarrhea or long-term solutions, or I should say solutions/causes because they're connected, are going to be chronic infections. Parasites, bacterial overgrowth, H. pylori. We're going to see a combination of low enzymes, low hydrochloric acid levels, and obviously inflammation in the gut. And the more inflamed the gut is, the more things will be shuffled through the intestinal tract at a faster rate, making it harder to absorb a lot of these nutrients. And when these nutrients aren't absorbed, it creates this downward spiral because we need these nutrients for healthy metabolism, healthy adrenals, healthy thyroid, right? Selenium, magnesium, zinc for healthy thyroid, magnesium for healthy mitochondria. Well, now we start to have more and more nutrient deficiencies, which continue to make these problems worse and worse and worse every single week. So it's really this downward spiral. And we have our chronic issues, like I mentioned, and then we have acute issues. Acute issues could be like food poisoning. like an E. coli or salmonella or campylobacter type of infection that causes some acute diarrhea. It could be a gluten sensitivity issue as well, where you're getting exposed to a food allergen like dairy or gluten, casein, etc., and that's creating inflammation that's causing your intestinal tract to not be happy and to move things out faster. Also, bacterial overgrowth, typically with hydrogen gas dominance regarding SIBO. That hydrogen gas can really affect motility and typically cause things to move along faster.
Yep, all great points. In my case, I had H. pylori, so we know that was messing up all my acid production, which is why I wasn't digesting my food very well.
Right.
Once I got rid of the H. pylori, then I retested the stool, and that's where I showed up with those parasites. I had crypto and giardia.
Right.
And then once I got rid of those, finally I was able to get the diarrhea under control. And so, I told the story to you many times on different podcasts we've done together where when I was in college, I would have to figure out where the bathroom was. And that was just part of my lifestyle. I just thought, okay, just find the bathroom and you'll be fine. And many people, they take the Pepto-Bismol or the Imodium AD or whatever other type of prescription or over-the-counter anti-diarrheal medication, and they just live with it. They keep it in their purse. They keep it in their backpack, and they just assume, I just need this medication. And we always want to point out, diarrhea is not a deficiency of anti-diarrheal medication. There is something going on. So don't just keep putting the duct tape over the check engine light. You have to address why your check engine light is on in the first place.
Yeah, and what are the most common anti-diarrhea medications? We have things like Pepto-Bismol, right? These are going to be anti-diarrhea. Maalox would be another big one. Those are the big kind of like over-the-counter types. Now, one of the things that we'll use in natural medicine, which I think is great, is if we have some kind of toxin or irritant, the easiest way to help decrease that effect on the motility is bind it up. So we'll use activated charcoal or bentonite clay taken with that food or questionable food, or taken while motility is on the faster side, and that can really help slow things up.
I've got my favorite one right here on my desk, Toxie's Bind from Beyond Balance. You can only get it through practitioners, but this is a game changer for me. 1, to detox mold, but 2, it's very helpful to slow things down just a little bit. It's not going to get you to a point where you're constipated. Some people can get constipated on binders if we are doing some type of a detox protocol, but it's very easy to mitigate that. Just throw in some extra magnesium and vitamin C, and usually it's no problem at all. It's kind of like a gas pedal. Some people, they're so into diarrhea territory, they need full dose binders multiple times a day to slow them down enough to have normal stools. But if you're on the other side where you may tend towards one loose stool here or there, and then you get slowed down too much, then just throw in the extra vitamin C, magnesium, and you'll be in the sweet spot.
Exactly. So the big thing is we'll throw in the binders like we talked about. Also, dehydration's big. So we may add in extra minerals, whether it's Redmond's real salt, a full teaspoon with water, shoot it down. A lot of conventional people are going to go in the direction of Pedialyte, which is going to have a lot of junky dyes and high fructose corn syrup and not the highest quality minerals. So we want more natural mineral support. So Redmond's real salts is a great way of doing that. You can also sip apple cider vinegar is excellent. It's got some really good mineral support. You can sip sauerkraut juice is excellent. And there's also some really good electrolyte formulas that are kind of blended together, don't have all the extra dyes and flavors and sugar in there. So those are good options as well. And if we need some extra glucose or extra carbohydrate, well, just throw in some coconut water. Coconut water's your natural electrolyte formula with glucose or with sugar in there because it's got a little bit of coconut sugar, but it's going to be on the natural side, and it won't have all the fructose corn syrup in there that's kind of going to be extracted from corn, right? So you'll get some extra potassium from the coconut water, and then we can always throw in some extra Redmond's real salt or even some new salt, which is potassium chloride-based salt. So we can get our potassium and we can up our magnesium and our sodium and our chloride and our magnesium and our sulfates. These are great ways we can get our minerals up. Also, extra Pellegrino or Topo Chico, a good quality mineral water on top of that will be really helpful for rehydration and getting your electrolytes up.
When my tummy's upset, I'll go for a ginger tea. I'll do a double bag of ginger tea or even mix 1 bag of chamomile with 1 bag of ginger and then just throw in like a half or a quarter teaspoon of raw honey. And that's pretty good too. Some argue there's a lot of different minerals and trace nutrients and stuff in honey. I don't really use honey as a source of nutrition though. I just use it to taste good.
Yes. I think that's great. Now, ginger is excellent as well. Typically, ginger has some natural prokinetic effects to it, so it really helps with slow motility. But let's not forget, diarrhea tends to have an inflammatory component to it. So a lot of these natural prokinetics that help with slower motility, well, they also have anti-inflammatory qualities to them. So if we can decrease inflammation in the intestinal tract, that can really help modulate motility that's too fast and kind of bring it back down.
Yeah, now speaking of inflammation, it is possible that your diarrhea situation is more than just an irritable bowel situation that could be triggered by parasites, H. pylori, bacterial overgrowth, candida. It could be an inflammatory bowel disease or some type of autoimmune disease like Crohn's or ulcerative colitis. So we don't want to discount the fact that your situation could be more serious. So we don't want you to listen to this podcast and just go drink ginger tea and think everything's going to be okay. You really need to work with a practitioner who can help you get the proper testing done to make sure it's not something more serious, especially if you've been suffering with chronic diarrhea.
100%. So we have these chronic infections that need to be looked at. So you really want to hook up with a good functional medicine doctor that can help you look at what potential infections or gut stressors could be there. And then this is really important, let's not forget the emotional stress. So we know emotional stress is going to interplay with the adrenals, and the adrenals are part of that stress handling sympathetic nervous system. So we have the bridge to the parasympathetic, which is the relaxation, calm down, that's the brake on the car to kind of slow things down. And then we have the gas pedal, which is go, 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 go. And the bridge from the parasympathetic, the brake, to the gas pedal, go, 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 the sympathetic, are the adrenals. And so when we're activating those adrenals and we're hitting that fight or flight response, one of the big things that's going to happen is motility tends to go faster, or it can go faster because digestion is disrupted. So when we have poor digestion because the sympathetic nervous system's up, we have less enzymes, we have less acid, we're going to have less breakdown of these foods. So I said that things can go faster. They can also go slower too, because when we have poor digestion, things can go fast or they can go slow. So the same root cause may be in effect though. That's the kind of hard thing is someone could have diarrhea, the other person could have constipation, and there could be similar root causes regarding adrenals and stress and digestive aspects. So you really have to look at everything from a root cause lens, and we connect the hormone component to it as well. And then let's not forget thyroid. One of the main symptoms of low thyroid can be low motility, because thyroid hormone has a natural migrating motor complex stimulating effect, meaning it helps stimulate those wave-like contractions. That's the migrating motor complex, which helps move food through. Now with diarrhea, thyroid typically may not be as much of an issue, but definitely with constipation, it could be. So slow motility, low thyroid, increased adrenal stress, increased cortisol, increased sympathetic nervous system, we could very well have diarrhea partly because of that. And who knows what kind of stressors in the gut are affecting it. Food could stress it out. Infections could stress it out. It's a two-lane highway of communication going from, the adrenals to the gut. It's not just a one-way, it's two-way. Stress in the gut can cause adrenal stress. Stress in the adrenals can cause gut stress, and vice versa.
Yeah, think about it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. Think about a time where you were really scared. You had to slam on your brakes in the car, or you had a big business meeting and you're worried. You got to sit down with the boss man. You get scared and people get that nervous tummy. Makes perfect sense. I think people forget about how much stress could play a role in their gut symptoms.
Yeah, and if you look at kiddos, right? Kiddos, they don't even have the ability to manage their urine or bowels. It's because at their age, they don't have the parasympathetic nervous system kind of built in yet. So they're more sympathetic dominant, because sympathetic stress causes bowel or urinary release. And think about it, right? We all have heard that story of someone who literally, they wet their pants because they were so scared, right?
Yeah.
Why is that? It's because the sympathetic nervous system can cause a release of the bladder or even the intestines. We see it more with the bladder because it's more readily available. It's easier to do. So we'll see it a lot with that level of stress can affect the bowels and affect the urinary tract.
Well, I've read stories of different people in the military where they are in an active shooter situation or they're in a hostage situation that people poop their pants.
It happens.
It's not fun, but it happens. So that just goes to show what the adrenal stress and the hormone piece can do to your gut. Now, you mentioned medications. So we didn't talk about drugs that people are taking that could be messing them up, though. So what about like acid blocking medications. I would suspect that acid blockers are going to make the situation worse. And if you're trying to control your reflux situation, but now you're lowering your stomach acid, now you've got all this undigested food, you're going to be much more likely to have diarrhea type issues if you're on acid blockers.
100%. So acid blockers make everything worse. Let's say there was an acid issue and you're calming down the acid levels in your intestines. Well, a lot of times that's not an excess acid issue. Usually it's the gut lining is worn down so thin, it just can't handle much acid at all. It's kind of like you want a great massage because your back's in pain, but you have a sunburn at the same time. So that back massage causes pain, even though it's really not. It's just you're in hypersensitive mode, right? It's the same thing with your gut. When that gut lining, when that gastric mucosa is thinned out, you just can't handle much. So you may actually need more, but your tolerance is too low. And then number two, if we don't have enough acid, our esophageal sphincter, which is basically the connection between the stomach and the esophagus, can stay open if we don't have enough acidity. So then the food sits, it rots, acid after the fact forms from the rotting of that food, then it can raise up through that open esophagus, sphincter, and start burning that lower part of the esophagus.
Let's talk about kids for a minute. We do see quite a lot of kids, infants, toddlers, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, teenagers that are dealing with gut issues of different types. So if we start at really, really young kids, like breastfeeding age, and those kids have diarrhea, most of the time we're going to blame that on mom, probably having gluten or dairy or some other food allergen in the diet. Now, so my daughter Summer, when she was about maybe 1.5, we got her first stool test done, and that's where she actually showed up with H. pylori plus a virulence factor, and she had either 1 or 2 parasites. I want to say she had blasto and dentamoeba, but I can't remember without looking at her labs. And so she had multiple factors. Mom's diet was clean, so we knew it wasn't that, but she had just act like her stomach hurt. You could just tell she was in pain. And so we gave her some liquid antimicrobials and we got rid of it. We retested the stool. The H. pylori was successfully gone. And then she had some bacterial overgrowth and candida. So we did another round of antimicrobials. And then finally, her gut's in a good place now. So it's hard with kids because sometimes if they're too young, they can't express to you what's going on. But, by the time they're age 3, 4, 5, hopefully they can tell you, hey, my tummy hurts. And if the kid's diet's dialed in, hopefully paleo template, and they're still having issues, then you can get testing done on kids. It's easy. Stool and urine can provide a lot of information.
100%. My son, Aiden, had significant diarrhea a few weeks back. Significant. I think it was a food issue. So one of the first things we did is we kind of gave him some extra anti-inflammatory support. We have some ginger in a liquid form to kind of calm his tummy. And we added some extra binders and activated charcoal to kind of bind things up. And then I just kind of looking at him, I could tell that based on how everything came about, there was definitely a food poisoning episode to it. So I got him on some specific liquid antimicrobial herbs, and within 24 hours, his bowels were solid.
That's great.
And he had 2 days of pure liquid. And anyone that has infants that wear diapers, it is not fun to clean up. So I was able to get that stabilized within 24 hours, made a huge difference. And he's on a regimen right now. More than likely he got some kind of infection. So we have him on a antimicrobial regimen that's liquid because it's easier for kiddos to get the liquid down. And then we have him on some probiotics as well. Now, that's one other thing. Probiotics can have some really good anti-inflammatory benefits. So with diarrhea, we may even add in probiotics while we're doing the herbs, just because they can really help kind of calm the gut down, which may provide some relief with the diarrhea. And that's important because I need to make sure we're absorbing those nutrients. So if we can get the diarrhea kind of compressed or dialed in, then that's going to help nutrition absorb a lot better. And then we used all the antimicrobials as well. That made a huge, huge difference. But one other thing I want to highlight, because you were talking about acid blockers and the spiral of negative consequences that can happen with that. Well, same with antibiotics, because antibiotics are commonly prescribed for diarrhea as well. What if it's not a bacterial issue? What if it's a parasite? What if it's a yeast overgrowth? What if it's a gluten sensitivity reaction? Well, guess what? Now you just knocked out a whole bunch of beneficial bacteria maybe you created more inflammation. We know antibiotics can create mitochondrial stress, so it's not good taking it unless you know it's going to help, right? So then you can create a whole bunch of more issues with the gut. Now we have this rebound overgrowth occurring, and now we may have more issues that intensify over time because of that antibiotic. So we really got to be careful if we're going to just throw medications at things kind of willy-nilly.
Well said. Well, take someone who has chronic fatigue. You mentioned the mitochondrial damage. We know that's associated with antibiotic use. So you've got someone that's tired, maybe because they've just been pooping so much. They're exhausted from all the mineral depletion. We talked about the adrenal stress. You take that chronically fatigued person, you throw antibiotics in the system, they're going to become more tired. So now they're not even motivated enough to get up and cook the healthy, nutritious foods they need to heal their gut. So I love that you brought that up, because my next thing I was going to say was, well, let's go down the rabbit hole and let's turn the tables a little bit. Let's take my daughter, let's take your son, and let's put him through the conventional medical rabbit hole. What would have happened? We would have taken your son to the pediatrician or my daughter to the pediatrician, and they would have said, oh, they've got diarrhea. Well, probably a bacterial issue. Let's give them a round of antibiotics. There's going to be a huge rebounding of candida, possibly skin issues that would happen.
And what if there was a parasite?
Exactly. It wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, what if my son got exposed to some gluten?
I know. Well,
it's not going to fix that.
And most of the time when people come to us, they've already been through that route. I've had many people that have been to their pediatricians with their children's health issues, and they've been disappointed at the level of care they've received. So they come to somebody like you or I, and we say, look, we really don't want to use antibiotics in this case. Number one, because we have the clinical data. We've run the genetic stool testing. We've run the urinary organic acids. We can tell you with confidence on the piece of paper, look, we've got this parasite, this bacteria, and we've got candida overgrowth. So yes, you could use antibiotics for those bacteria, but our success rate is so high using herbs. Why throw in the big guns if we can use things like olive leaf and berberine and clove and other herbs that will still do the same antimicrobial benefit without killing mitochondria, without killing good guys? There's just a better way to do it, and that is the way to do it.
Exactly. We also may make changes with foods. We may cut out fermentable carbohydrates if there's bacterial stuff being fed by it. We may lean more on a GAPS or kind of a soup or stew or kind of bone broth type of template where foods are more in a liquid form to make everything easier to digest. And also, we're going to add in extra anti-inflammatories, L-glutamine, aloe, slippery elm. Of course, Evan mentioned ginger already. These are excellent things to help kind of reduce inflammation, maybe even turmeric or curcumin. Conventional medicine typically won't touch that because what are their anti-inflammatory medications? Well, they're prednisone, maybe NSAIDs, right? These non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, which actually can rip up the gut lining more and create more problems. So a lot of times these medications won't be recommended because they may create more issues on the intestinal side. We know the major side effect of NSAIDs is ulcerations that kill 20,000 people a year, according to the New England Journal of Medicine. So they tend to not to reach for many of these anti-inflammatories because they tend to cause more problems than not. But in natural medicine world, we have a lot more anti-inflammatories that are natural and they aren't going to have those side effects and can be added into your diet and really have beneficial effects.
Yeah, it's crazy how quickly you could get down the rabbit hole and not end up any healthier than when you went into a hospital or immediate care center. When we talk about antibiotics, we're assuming that if you did have a bacterial infection, we're assuming that that is a non-antibiotic resistant strain. But what if you've got C. difficile, for example, which kills so many people? Diarrhea could be C. diff. C. diff is something that we see every single week.
Infection. Yep.
And C. diff has become very, very resistant to antibiotics to where these gastroenterologists are recommending stronger and stronger drugs, sometimes even resorting to IV antibiotics to kill the Clostridia. I've never had an issue getting rid of Clostridia using herbs. I've seen it countless times. I know you have too. It disappears with the antimicrobials that are natural because, see, herbs are not a single mechanism, right? You can't just say, well, there's this one alkaloid or this one polyphenol. It doesn't work like that in nature. There's so many things that we don't even fully understand what's in there. We just know, hey, berberine has all this other stuff that comes with it, and that package deal gets rid of C. diff where antibiotics just may not.
Exactly. That's why we'll add in specific Saccharomyces or Bifido or Lactobacillus species to really calm things down. My big kind of warning for everyone listening is if you have excessive blood in the stool, it's not stabilized, or the electrolytes and the minerals drop so low or so fast that we're dizzy, lightheaded, we may need to go to an ER to get an IV and to kind of get things stabilized while you get things on track. Same with the blood and the stool. So just keep an eye. If things are really intense and symptoms are ratcheting up fast and you can't get fluid in, you can't get electrolytes in, you can't get things stabilized, conventional medicine may need to be used to at least get things stable. Now that's going to be on the extreme side. We like to at least draw a line for people listening so they aren't incredibly dogmatic and only go the natural route. For the majority of people, that will probably be fine. But if you're in that camp where you can't stabilize, an IV with electrolytes will be helpful. If excessive blood's in the stool, then we may have to look at getting that at least stabilized in the meantime while we come back to this. We should never ignore it. We should always come back, but we may need some level of stabilization first.
Yeah, well said. That happened to my grandmother. She had started, I think it was probably related to a medication she had started. This was a couple years ago, where she ended up vomiting and having diarrhea. So she was losing liquids out of both ends.
Yes.
She couldn't keep any water down. Her blood pressure was starting to get messed up. She's already dealing with atrial fibrillation, so she had some heart issues going on as well. I just told her, look, this is a situation where you just got to go. So she went to the ER. They gave her fluids. Unfortunately, they put her on antibiotics, so then she ended up having more issues with the antibiotics. But as soon as I got her back home, I was able to pump her full of 50 to 100 billion a couple times a day of probiotics, and then within about 3 days, wasn't overnight, but within about 3 days, we got her bowels normalized again. So she was in a situation where, you know, especially at her age, she could have gotten really big trouble if she didn't go to the hospital.
Same thing happened with my son. We were just able to get enough activated charcoal to slow the motility up, and all of his drinks had extra electrolytes, extra minerals, extra nutrients in the drinks. And then we just kept everything really cooked and really easy and on the lower FODMAP side as well, and that kind of helped stabilize things. And then getting some of the antimicrobials in really helped too.
Yeah, I mean, if you have vomiting going on with diarrhea at the same time, one thing
That's
that our
tough.
pediatrician did say that was helpful early on in my daughter's life was, I think she was around 6 months old. She got, we think it was probably like a rotavirus or some other type of virus, maybe a norovirus, you know, vomiting and diarrhea, so coming out of both ends. And the pediatrician we spoke with, she's supposedly more functional. However, she still recommends a lot of antibiotics and things we don't agree with. But she said, give it 2 to 4 hours after vomiting before you try to throw anything in, even breast milk, even water. Just let the gut rest. And I thought, you know what? That's actually a pretty good idea, because sometimes if it's diarrhea and vomiting, you get in a rush to throw stuff back in. But if the gut is so irritated, sometimes you may just need to just fast for a couple hours and don't do anything. But obviously this is a podcast. We're not consulting with you all. So you see how there's so many huge variations of this, and there's such a big spectrum of what may need to be done.
Yeah, how I would handle that is I would just come in there, I'd let it rest for a bit, I'd add in some bone broth, some ginger tea, everything very liquid, bone broth, ginger tea, maybe some collagen amino acids, keep it very simple, very gentle. Start working in a little bit of probiotics in there as well, start working in a little bit of binders, and just kind of get your bowels stabilized. And if we can't, big deal. We just go get an IV on board. Well, that buys us a little bit more time, so we don't have to worry about any electrolyte or hyponatremia issues from losing too much fluids.
Essential oils are something we should mention. Some people get crazy with essential oils. Like they'll say, oh, essential oils are for everything, or essential oils cure this and cure that. You know, I'm not going to go there. All I'm going to say is that essential oils can be helpful. There are some clinical, double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled studies of patients with irritable bowel syndrome, and that by using peppermint oil,
Peppermint's great.
they had significant improvements in quality of life. And you could just
Peppermint
apply
and
it
ginger is
topically.
excellent. That's fine.
So coconut oil, avocado oil, put a little bit of carrier oil. Just put a couple drops of peppermint oil, rub it onto your tummy. That can be a game changer. Now, I've seen people like putting like lemon essential oil and stuff in their water. I don't personally ingest essential oils. I just use them topically.
Yeah, that can be helpful though. The D-limonene in those citrus oils or essential oils can definitely help with the diarrhea. So there is the component of D-limonene in the citrus or orange or lime or lemon that does have some natural anti-diarrheal qualities. And again, when it's more subtle, that works. Some of the herbs that we're doing, the amount that we're giving acutely is so high. And if you were to take that, let's just say in an essential oil liquid form, you'd be shooting down like half the bottle a day. And some of these oils could be very abrasive. That's where it's nice to have it in a capsule form or a liquid form that's designed to allow it to get down smoothly without all the taste problems.
Yeah, that's where I get concerned. It's like, okay, grapefruit seed, essential oil, maybe that's a good thing, but Lord, I don't want that going down my esophagus, really.
Yeah, so essential oils can be great when it's gentle stuff. It can be really great for kiddos too when they can't swallow, just being able to get a couple of drops in them. It can be very soothing on their tummy, but when it gets more acute, that's where we got to pull out the big guns.
Yeah, so fever, that was another situation we forgot to mention. We talked about the bleeding. We talked about the vomiting situation that can make things more tricky or complicated, and then also fever. But fever may be the body's natural response too. So like this immediate idea to suppress a fever may not be wise either. I think it's just a case-by-case basis. That's why a conversation like this gets kind of hard.
Yeah, in general, my perspective on fevers, if it's below 105 degrees, we don't worry about it. Fevers, for the most part, are always going to be fine as long as there's not head trauma. If there's head trauma, then the hypothalamus maybe has an inability to regulate temperature, then we get a little bit concerned. So head trauma from a car accident or a fall, and then a fever ensuing afterwards, we may have to be a little more careful of that. But if there's no head trauma involved and we have a fever, then we're just going to work on supporting the immune system because that's the body raising the temperature to kill off mesophilic bacteria, medium temperature bacteria that will die around 100, 101, 102. So it may go up a little bit. If it's below 105, you're more than likely fine. Conventional medicine will typically recommend Tylenol way sooner, which in my opinion is going to decrease glutathione. Actually, not my opinion, that's according to research. It will decrease glutathione levels, and it will decrease your body's ability to kill that bacteria. So my opinion is 105 or below, you're probably fine as long as there's no head trauma. Either way, please see your conventional MD regarding that, just to be on the safe side.
Yep, well said. CBD oil, just give a brief mention to it. You know, I think people overstate the benefits of CBD oil, just like they do with essential oils. Like you could, oh, my left pinky hurts. Oh, CBD oil, you know, so people get a little carried away with it. However, I used it for my daughter. I use it for myself. CBD oil does have benefits. Now, is it going to be as helpful as like an aloe extract or a ginger extract or berberines or Paul de Arco or olive? Probably not, really. I mean, I think it's great, right, and it can modify things, but I just don't think it's necessarily root cause as much as some of the other things we talked about.
100%. Well, man, today was an excellent podcast. We really went in deep on the clinical side, so I hope everyone is valuing this information. If you do, give us a thumbs up, give us a share, let us know your comments below, what you liked about this article, and what future topics you would like us to chat about. And if you want to dive in deeper, if you feel like this article resonates with you or a friend or family member, head over to evanbrand.com to schedule a consult with Evan, or justinhealth.com to schedule a consult with myself. We'll put links down below. We work with patients virtually all over the world, and we'd love to help you out if you're ready for that next step.
Sounds good. Well, great conversation. I hope this helps people, and we'll be back next week.
Excellent, Evan. Hey, man, it was great chatting with you. We'll talk soon.
You too. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Got a question for Dr. J? Go to BeyondWellnessRadio.com and click the questions button. Then tune in to hear the answer. Also, if you like the show, click below to review us on iTunes. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to BeyondWellnessRadio.com.